Hi, everyone. We are back with the Janelle Show, and I am here with Sheila Cares. Hi, Sheila. How are you today?
I am fine. I am doing great.
So I saw that you are an educational consultant. What exactly is an educational consultant?
Well, my role is to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And I have worked with teachers and administrators and parents and students. So, really, it's all about providing a service to encourage and to help people be a better version of themselves. I have worked in schools
Mm-hmm.
in helping teachers as they work with children in their classrooms. And the other thing that I do with my business is I offer services. I have seminars, I have parent workshops, and I am an author and a speaker. So I'm all about encouraging and motivating people. So
I love that. I love that. That's beautiful. So when you're supporting teachers, are you supporting them around reading because you're an author? So is that what you're helping them with, or is it more than that?
I can help them with not only teaching reading, but also classroom management. I
Mm-hmm.
can help them in how they conduct parent conferences and so forth. And what they're doing instructionally. I can provide ideas for different learning activities, learning stations. So I guess I'm a one-stop shop, so to speak. And I've been in education. I started out as a classroom teacher and always loved reading and never understood why people didn't like reading. So I became a reading specialist. So
Mm-hmm.
I worked as a reading specialist and I was able to work with children in grades K through 5. I did work for a short time at the middle school level, but my heart is really with the younger children. So I have been in education long enough to have a wide range of different experiences. And I didn't set out planning to become a school administrator,
Mm-hmm.
but I somehow entered that path and I thought, well, I'll just be an assistant principal. I don't think I want to be the principal. Well, excuse me, I became an assistant principal and it was part time. So half of the day I taught arts and craft because that's another love of mine. And the other half, I was the quote administrator. And what happened is the principal that I worked under, and it was a brand new school, and I was new to the county that year. Well, we opened up that school, and he did such an excellent job of opening the school that when they opened the middle school the next year, they moved him.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it's like, oh no. And what happened was he recommended that I take his place. So, excuse me, I have a little frog in my throat.
Mm-hmm.
So I became the principal. And so he gave me my first experience and I never looked back. And I have
So
enjoyed it.
are you still a principal now?
I retired 3
Okay.
years ago
Okay.
and I was principal at the same school 3 different times. So they saw Sheila in the beginning, Sheila kind of in the middle of her career,
Mm-hmm.
and then Sheila toward the end. So,
Gotcha.
and it was such a joy because the children made my day, and I worked with teachers and parents. So I ended up writing 2 books. The first book that I wrote was really about my early experiences as an administrator. And the second book that I wrote was called The Learning House. And it's a collection of different like homemade activities. And I show parents some of the different things that they can do and how they can use the rooms in their house and turn them into learning labs.
Mm.
And something else is I talk about chores and I show them how they can turn like everyday chores into extraordinary, exciting learning activities, like something as simple as folding up clothes. You can use
Mm-hmm.
that time to talk about categories and see if they can pick out, things that are different, things that are the same, matching socks
Yes.
and deciding, for certain items, are they things that you wear on the outside or inside? Are they play clothes or work clothes? And of course, there are many things that you can do in the kitchen. And the third book that I wrote is called Staying the Course. And what I do, it's like a culmination of all of the lessons that I learned from, I call them messes. Sometimes you learn more from the mistakes that you make.
It's true. Yeah.
So, and I pretty much have outlined how I resolve some of the issues so that it could serve as something that new administrators could look at to help them, something that I wish I had, because sometimes you learn by doing,
Mm-hmm.
really grow when you make mistakes. And that was published in 2018. And my fourth book, which I'm in the process of working on the proofs for, is The School Connection.
Mm-hmm.
And that is scheduled to be out in May. And in that book, something that I always wanted to do was to have a resource for parents, teachers, and school leaders. I really feel that as new parents entering the school for the first time, they have all of these ideas, and a lot of them are based on what their experiences were as
Mm-hmm.
children when they were in school.
Mm-hmm.
So some of them, if it's their first time, or maybe they're transferring new into the school system, they have all these ideas and they don't understand why there are certain rules in place, and why they can't have a birthday party in school because it's their child's birthday, or why it isn't good to pass out birthday invitations when you don't have one for every child in the
Right.
class.
Right.
So I talk about those things, and I give them some protocols for what to do when your child is having a problem in the classroom, questions to ask, like before a IEP meeting and after an IEP meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes teachers and parents have a difference of opinion. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a way that you can agree to disagree. So I talk about that because I have sat in on many parent and teacher conferences. And I would say that the bulk of them come about because of the lack of communication. And sometimes teachers don't realize that the way they say things don't always sit right. And they mean to be complimentary sometimes, and sometimes the way they say things um, really doesn't come out that way. And we have parents who expect, well, they act like their child is the only child in that teacher's classroom.
Right. Right.
And they need to realize that their child is one of 23 or one of 24. And I'm not saying that teachers don't do their best to meet the needs, but they don't have the time to always um, be able to email every moment of the day.
Right. Right.
So, and that's one of the things that I feel would help make the transition as a new parent into a school smoother if they just had an understanding of the role of the principal, the role of the teacher, the guidance counselor, and to realize that there's a level of communication. Now,
Mm-hmm.
myself, and I'm sure you, if you're a parent,
Mm-hmm.
if something happens, if your child does something, you want that person to come to you and to tell you instead
Mm-hmm.
of two of you can sit down and resolve it. Well, sometimes a parent will go to the principal first or the superintendent, and they never go to the school to give the principal the opportunity to look into the situation, or if it happened in the classroom, to actually talk with the teacher about it. So all of that is in the school connection. And I titled it The School Connection, Parents, Teachers, and School Leaders Empowering Youth for Life Success.
I like that. Beautiful. I love that. Sheila, I have so many questions. Um, I just want to figure out which one to ask first because I do have an education background.
Okay, good.
Yes, my mother is a teacher, and so I taught in schools for a couple of years actually. And then I started a tutoring company. So I understand everything that you're saying. And I mostly dealt with the children on a one-on-one basis. And so the stories that I heard from the children are very scary to me. They're actually horrific. The things that children have to go through when they go to school and manage, and they actually have to manage life scenarios, grown life scenarios at a young age. Do have a child. I have a 5-year-old. He just turned 5, so he's in pre-K, and I have decided not to send him to school. He had a situation this year in pre-K. He's highly intelligent. So in pre-K, he had a situation where he was in trouble at least once a month. And I mean serious trouble for a 4-year-old. I mean, he got written up and everything. And he's 4. He's not a bad kid, but he's 4, right?
Right.
So it came down to, and this is what you're speaking about, classroom management for that teacher. So another child in the classroom actually got expelled, and they expelled a 4-year-old. And that's when I realized, I'm like, okay, no, it's not us. It's actually something that's going on in the school. So we had to get the director of the school involved because there was no classroom management at all. My son was doing as he pleased, which of course is not good, but he's, like I said, he's highly intelligent. So he becomes the teacher.
So he's running the classroom.
Right, which he should not be doing. So, but she had no control to get him to not run the classroom and teach what she's supposed to be teaching.
Right.
So the director had to step in. I like that you said it's a conversation between the parents and, the teacher, and everybody is involved in making sure that this child gets what they need. I would also like to add that parents need to know their children. You know what I'm saying? This is your child. You have to be responsible for your child, whether or not the teacher teaches your child. Of course, that's their job, but their education is still your responsibility. So for me, I feel like I know what he does. I know when he's bad. I know when he's good. I know what he's doing, right? So when I was hearing certain stories, I was like, that's not true. that's not my son. But then I'd hear other things. I'm like, Winter, that was you. Why did you do that? So for parents, it's like, know your child as well, and give the teacher's not wrong about certain things that they're telling you that your child is doing. So my question for all of this is, how do you manage and balance all of this? Because now this has totally turned me off from putting him in school. He's just not going to school because I don't feel like that particular teacher was an advocate for him. And I feel like he's just going to constantly get in trouble. I just feel like he's just constantly going to get in trouble simply because, not because he's bad, but he's literally bored.
Right. And, I have had some experiences very similar to that in the past. And one of the things that I wanted to say, not knowing the administrator, and just based on what you said, there definitely was a classroom management problem.
Yeah.
They're 4 years old.
Right.
And in pre-K, they have a classroom teacher
Yes.
and an assistant principal.
Right.
And something is wrong when a 4-year-old is able to run a classroom. So, I can understand, evidently, there was a definite problem. And really, when you are an administrator, you have to face some facts and truths about a situation. That teacher evidently needed some help.
Yeah, she got help. She did get help. So I will say that once the director, I started emailing because I'm like, this is out of control. I'm getting write-ups every 2 weeks for like 3 months. And I'm like, what on earth? And it was like crazy stories that I was getting. So I contacted her and I'm like, something's not right. Something's going on. And once the kid got expelled, I was like, okay, it's not my kid. There's something going on here. So she ended up going into the classroom herself and taking over the classroom to show the teacher how to manage things. Right. So I think it worked. I have not had a single write-up since she did that, actually. Okay. And it's been a good 3 or 4 months. So
he's still going now.
He's still going. He goes 2 days a week. So I cut back the days that he goes. It was 5 days a week. So I cut him back to 2 days a week. They're still open for COVID, but because of COVID, I cut him back to 2 days a week, and because of this behavior thing. And I think it's really working.
Okay, here's what I want to say to you. And of course, you're the parent and it's your decision. It's evident that the pre-K director, and I am a former pre-K director, went in and worked with that teacher. So evidently there has been some improvement. And I would say to you that what you might want to think about, because you did mention that you're considering not having him go to school at all. And I know, unfortunately, sometimes things like this happen, but just because that happened this year, you do know that an effort was put in and the teacher did make a change and things are better.
Yes.
I would really think about going ahead and trying kindergarten and see how it goes. But like I said, you're the parent.
Right. So here's the problem with kindergarten. My mother teaches kindergarten, right? So I know the curriculum, I know what they're going to be learning. He is so far past that he would be so bored. He's already reading sentences, he's reading books, like he's in a first grade, getting into second grade level. He would get into so much trouble. Like I already know. It just would not work for him.
With that additional information, you have the time, you have your mother, you're very familiar with the curriculum. And I'm sure you've already investigated homeschooling.
Yes, I used to homeschool kids. That was part of my tutoring agency. So that's fine.
Then hey, go for it.
Yes, I'm gonna go for it.
You go for it.
Thank you.
Really.
So I want to ask you, how has your business transitioned since COVID? Since we were talking about COVID, how has your business transitioned?
It's funny that you should say that. Originally, I started out with a partner. I had a separate business. I always had Sheila Cares, Educational Consulting and Services, but it was on the back burner. I was still working as an administrator, and I really didn't put the time into it. Well, COVID hit. We were on our way back from Savannah. We wrote up a proposal and we were accepted to be presenters at a national conference, the National Youth at Risk Conference in Savannah.
Oh, wow.
We presented March 10th. We left there, our evaluations were great. The people that attended our sessions were very positive in their feedback. We left there on cloud 9. March 17th, everything shut down. I'm in the at-risk category for COVID.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, okay, Sheila, what are you going to do now? Well, I am not techie. Then it's like, okay, I need to learn how to do Zoom. I need to get more involved with Facebook. And my daughter, who is who works at a private college for women in Atlanta, I would call her, well, how do you do such and such? And she said, look, and she did help me, but she did say, you need to start Googling, you need to start looking at YouTube videos. So
I had the same conversation with my mother.
I started crying. Okay, so you're one of those.
Listen, I walked her through it. We got on Zoom together. I'm like, click here. We're on the phone and on the computer. Click here, click here. And then after a while, I'm like, you're going to have to learn this. This is your job.
And one of the things, and then the person that the other business, we decided that, her passion was with doing something else.
Mhm.
And I just realized it was time for me to step out on my own.
Yeah.
So I had to, I had recently retired. So I had to pretty much find Sheila again.
Mm.
So not only did I have to find who I was, because my life was defined as Sheila Sapp, the principal.
Mhm.
People didn't realize that there were other things
Mm.
that were in me that I did, because when you work as an administrator, you are totally, if you're a good administrator, you're going to be focused on that.
Mhm.
You're going to give everything to that, to your parents, to your teachers, and especially the students. As I said, they made my day. So I just realized some things about myself. And one was that it was time for me to act on this desire that I had. Time was going by. It was not too late. So I have a website now, and right now I'm in the process of having it redesigned.
Mhm.
And right now you're looking at a backdrop that my husband put together for me, which shows the 4 books
Yes.
that I have. I'm doing this live podcast. That's
Yes.
another avenue
Yes.
to help promote, what I do in my book and so forth. And one of the things that I found out and my daughter, and I always accuse my daughter of being a perfectionist, but guess who else is one?
She got it honest.
And I found that I was really holding myself back. I was blocking myself because I was so afraid to make a mistake. I was afraid to do live on Facebook. And now I'll pray and I'll do it. But you have to get beyond that fear. You have to be strong and courageous, and you have to be willing to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. So I would say to anyone that has that desire to do something, if they haven't, they need to go ahead and do it. It doesn't matter how old you are, and it's never too late.
So how I want to talk quickly about how you got to this point of finding yourself again.
Okay, well, that's another story. I told you that I became a principal really when I didn't feel I was ready to be an administrator, but it was an opportunity that came along, and I decided, well, I better go ahead and take it because I told you it was my first year in with this county.
Mm-hmm.
And that first year was really rough for me because my former husband had an affair.
Mm-hmm.
And here I was, a time in my life that should have been, you know, happy for me. It wasn't. So I had all of that going on, but the saving grace was my job and praying. And during that time, I had to face some things about myself and about my marriage And when I did that, and I did write, and I'm going to turn this into a devotional, I call it the breakthrough. And I talk about some of the things that I faced that helped me get over that dark, that was the darkest period in my
Mhm.
personal life and my professional life. And I found out that I didn't really like Sheila. So I
Mm.
had to go back and not only discover who I am and who I was, but to like that person too.
Mhm.
And then I had to face some truths about myself. And I realized that I didn't have the confidence that I should have had, and that I set someone else on a pedestal and I
Mhm.
shouldn't have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I realized that I had to work on my self esteem. And one of the ways that I did that was writing down my accomplishments and coming up with some new goals
Mm.
and celebrating those goals, because sometimes we meet milestones and we cross off tasks and we accomplish things and we don't take time to celebrate. And I was able to go on and get through that darkness by one of the other principles that I talk about is you have to believe in a higher source, whatever that is. I believe in God
Mhm.
because there is no way you can make it in this world without that being connected to that source.
Right.
So that was something else. So I became stronger in my faith. And I was able to put my daughter through college as a single parent at the time.
Mhm.
I completed my doctorate and I wrote my first book um, over that time. So, and then I did remarry 10 years later. I learned a lot. So and that's why when I get the opportunity to speak, I like to talk to women about the fact that there are not only second chances, there are a million chances
Mm.
that those things that we go through, and I call them like cracks in your vessel, that it's those cracks that allow you to reach out and minister to others. And I think, we think that we have to be perfect. And sometimes people will see you in a position. Here I was, the principal in a small community, and the affair was very public,
Mhm.
and the
I can
woman
imagine.
involved, was 14 years younger than
Mhm.
myself, and her children went to the school
Oh my
of one of
goodness.
my colleagues, and my cafeteria staff all lived in Woodbine at the time, and I didn't. I lived in St. Mary's. So it was like everybody knew
Mm.
except me. So you can imagine what it's like to go to work every day knowing that this is happening and you're hoping that a lot of other people don't know about it. But you have to stay strong and focused on the task before you. And it was a rough time, but I got through it with God's help. I got through it. So that was my breakthrough, which eventually led to me being where I am today and being a stronger person. Now, I do have some moments, and I think we all do. With this pandemic, it has turned everybody upside down. So, but during this time, I have used this time to further develop my skills and just try new things and have time to watch those YouTube videos, those tutorials, and do podcasts. And as I said, I finished my fourth book. during this time. So, and I remember when we got back from Savannah, I mean, I was just devastated. It was like, what do I do? And I remember I was just constantly washing my hands. And one day I looked down at my hands and they were all dried out. And it's like, what in the world am I doing? I hadn't been outside in about 2 weeks. And I said, I just can't continue to do this. So I went outside and I have some trees out in my yard. And a squirrel came into my vision. It caught my eyesight. And I started following the squirrel up the tree. And I looked up and I just focused on the sky and the clouds. And I just said, thank you, God. And it just brought me back to where my focus needed to be. So after that, I started feeding my squirrels outside every day. So I have adopted, I have some squirrel grandbabies now, and I feed them every day. But it was something that helped me get out of the feeling that I had with the pandemic and COVID-19. I started looking to nature. And so I walk every day. I haven't walked yet, and I'll probably go out and walk after this interview. And I do feed my squirrels. And I am just amazed at how smart they are and how persistent and how they persevere.
Yeah.
Because I was just playing with the ears of corn, just seeing what they would do to get it. And they have never failed me. So I get a kick out of them. And I think they have trained me. I mean, every day is like, oh, let me get out there. Let me put the food out for my squirrels. So I don't know. I am just really enjoying this time. And this is allowing me the opportunity to reach out, and even talking with you this morning and just being able to share different things with people who may be struggling, who need words of encouragement, to let them know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And, sometimes we pray for things and we want them to happen just like that, but it doesn't happen like that. God doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And those missed opportunities or those closed doors, they're just a pathway to new opportunities. And sometimes when things are blocked, that's God's way of either saying, no, that's not for you, or no, you're not ready yet, or I have something better in mind for you. So you don't need to go that way. So that's how I'm looking at things that don't work out. I know I did miss one interview podcast because I misinterpreted something. But, I looked at it like, well, I missed that one. And who's to say that I won't be able to do another one? And here I am this morning with you.
I love that. I love the positive way of looking at it.
Yes.
Quickly, a book. I'm a big book reader. I know you are. I definitely know you are. But instead of, and not just your books, but what is like what your favorite book to read? What would you suggest?
The book, and I'm sure a lot of people have read it, but the book that I could not put down was Michelle Obama's book, Becoming.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
That is an excellent book. And I'm a big, I like murder mysteries. So I often read murder mysteries.
Yeah.
Um,
Who's your favorite murder mystery author?
Agatha Christie.
Yes. Yes.
I
Yes.
think, I've read
Yes.
all of her books,
Yes.
and right now my mind is blocking about some of the other authors that I have read, but she is my all-time favorite. And the ABC Murderers. I can't think of who the writer is right now,
With
but read all of
Pericles Parrot. I forgot. I don't know who the writer is, but the person in it, the main person is Heracles. Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes, good books, definitely.
yes.
Thank you, Sheila. Sheila, excuse me, got a frog in my throat now. Sheila, people would love to connect with you. I know they do. So, how can they get in contact with you? How can they get your services? Tell us everything.
My web page, it's in the process of being the redesign, but the old one is still up,
Okay.
and my website is www.Sheila, that's SHEILAE cares.com. My I can give you my business email address, which is Sheila Sapp 15 at gmail.com.
Okay.
So those are the two ways that they can get in touch with me. And I am on Facebook, Sheila Sapp. I'm on Instagram, sap.sheila, at sap.sheila. I'm on LinkedIn, Sheila Sapp. I have a YouTube channel, Sheila E. Cares. So very simple, very easy to get in touch with me. Remember, I told you, I'm just learning. So I'm not, just keep it simple for me right now. So, and like I said, I offer webinars, workshops. I'm really interested in coaching or principals, would like to have a mentor. I'm open for chats. Right now, everything is via Zoom. So,
Okay. I love it. So I'll put all those links and all that information in the show notes down below so everybody can get access and speak to Sheila. Sheila, thank you so much for being here with me today.
and thank you. And I really wish you the best with your son. I think that's neat that you've had a tutoring business. So, and I know because my daughter, I know what it's like for you growing up with a mother as a teacher, because my daughter was my guinea pig. So I would, and that's how I wrote the Learning House, those activities that I told you about, because she would say, I remember how you taught me to tie my shoes, that little game that you made. And she's the one that encouraged me to write that book. So, but hats off to you. Um, and I wish you the best. And I know that your son is going to excel.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right, guys, this has been the Janelle Show. You guys have a great day.
All right. Bye.
Bye.